My guest Neeta Das practices as a conservation architect in Kolkata. As a prolific writer, she has authored and co-authored several books on the 18th and 19th century architecture and their conservation. Her work emphasizes the holistic and sustainable conservation of old buildings and urban areas by realigning them with the mainstream systems and developments. In this episode, she educated us on the issues and challenges associated with conservation and her motivation to keep going in spite of it. Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I'm Asban Sari, the founder of the organization Peacemakers Pakistani, and I'm bringing you the stories of placemakers, artists, and professionals from around the globe about how they created an impact and made change happen. You are listening to the Making It Happen show. Thank you for joining in. Enjoy the episode. Hello, Neeta ma'am. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to see you again, and it's such an honor to have you on the show. How are you, and how is it going?
I'm really happy and I'm really happy to see you. And I'm more happy about the questions you sent me because it gave me an opportunity to stop and think about my own life and my own work. So, thank you again for getting me for this informal chat, which is very nice. Thank you.
I'm really glad that you like them, and yeah, now I'm looking forward to asking you them. Okay, so so let's start with the first question. What inspired you to be a conservation architect? What is special about it? Would you like to share?
Actually, I was an architect. I was just an simple architect, and I had a love for architecture. And I also had a love for history, and I used to love old buildings also. But then I realized that there was nobody really taking care of old buildings, because this I'm talking about almost 35 years back. There was no conservation. I mean, there was just one conservation department, I think, and it was not common for architects to become conservation architects. So even if I wanted, I could not become a conservation architect, because by that time I had done my PhD and I'd finished. And when I saw that these things were happening, and then I realized that, there has to be a way out and taking care of old buildings, because in architecture, you're always taught to create buildings. But even if in a normal house, there is a dampness problem, or there is a crack problem, or there is a, simple plumbing problem, an architect can't solve that if you look at it. So we were really taught how to design new buildings, but there is no thought process in how to take care of a building which is already built. So my interest was not only for heritage buildings, but it was for any building. So even if I designed a beautiful building, after 10 years or 20 years, even that needs maintenance. So for me, conservation was being like a doctor for buildings, trying to find out the cause. And I thought, as an architect, we should know that, if there is a problem with the building, why it is and how it takes care of. So that is with the mindset, along with old and new buildings, I got into conservation.
All right. Yes, it's very thoughtful of you, and I agree to this because we have done one project once in our uh, study years, and I was like, we have so much old buildings that we can use now. We don't need
Yeah,
to just demolish
yeah,
them or build new over them. We can
yeah.
reuse them. We can repurpose them, and we can, keep the culture alive. That's something that we should focus on. It's not that the
Uh,
payment must come from being creating new things or that thing, because it's going to be damaging for our environment as
Unsustainable.
well, or for our soul.
Unsustainable. It's very unsustainable, because I mean, we have to look at it like this, that if we have three generations, me, my father, and my daughter, or me, my mother, and my this thing. So I mean, that means to say, every time I need to take my mother's place, I have to kill off my mother. And if my daughter has to take my place, I need to be killed off. So it's really like you are trying to remove a whole section to put a new section in, rather than taking it on as a process of getting old, taking care. And when it goes, it goes. It's not that you have to keep it, mummify it, and keep it for posterity. So I mean, the whole process interests me more. I mean, than just because new building today, an iconic building today, becomes a heritage tomorrow. So we should not think of only the old buildings that we look at, but buildings of today, something that you have designed, something which is an icon today, 100 years later, will need the same, attention that old buildings need today. So it's like an ongoing process.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so share your passion for heritage culture, especially the Asian culture.
Uh, Actually, the reason that I like history was that being a dreamer, it's so easy to go in the past, in different cultures, into different time periods. So you can actually, it's like a time machine. You can travel through cultures and through spaces. So I cannot say that it is only one culture, because every culture, everywhere you go, gives you this excitement of seeing new things and new varieties and learning new things and opportunity to understand things. So I really cannot say that it is only one culture, because I think I understood my culture best when I went to the United States for my education, because that was the first time I could observe my culture. When I had gone to the United States, I had decided I will never again wear a sari in my whole life. And I went over there and I saw everybody was in this unisexual dress of blue jeans and white shirt, and blue jeans and white shirt. And I used to wear the same thing, blue jeans and white shirt. And then I realized, oh my God, my country has so much color. I can choose a different colored sari every day and wear it. Or I can wear, my bangles with them or my earrings with them. And at least once in a while, I can look like a woman. And here too, I don't. And uh, so things like that actually struck me as being uh, just by comparison, I understood my culture. If it was not this comparison, I don't think I would have understood my culture. So I mean, it was like a mirror in which I saw myself as whatever it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the contrast made you realize your own uniqueness. That's
uh,
great.
difference.
Okay, so how would you support the connection among history, ecology, and people for sustainable development?
I don't know. As I'm growing older, I feel that there is no difference. I mean, we are part of nature. We are made up of the same thing that a plant is made up of, or an animal is made up of. And we do make our habitats from the same material that nature produces. So there is no difference per se between man, ecology, and architecture. We all belong as one. And until unless we think of it like that, as a whole ecosystem, I don't think we can really uh, bring about any positive thing, because if you take from the animal, from nature, then you are reducing nature. If you take something away from humanity, then you are reducing humanity. So I think that balance between all the three things become most important, because that is the unity actually. So anything you take away from each other, uh, if not done properly, it's going to change that balance between the three.
Yes, the respect for everything and the status, when we realize the status of everything, that they exist for a reason, that's how we can at least appreciate them and respect them
No,
for
we are
their
dependent on them.
intent
We
that
are dependent on them. We are
yeah.
dependent on oxygen. We are dependent on the nature. We are dependent on the food we get from there. I mean, I don't think we can survive without them. So it's not respect, it's our need.
Yeah, and the awareness is important. If we are aware of
Yes,
this, only then we
yes,
can sustain it, or
yes,
only then we can focus on making it happen.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
What are your three major points you focus on when you observe and analyze a place from a conservation point of view?
I think the most important thing, I mean, and I'm saying that from the Indian context and not from a Western point of view, is to find out first and foremost, is it relevant today? Is it really relevant today? Is it useful today? Is it worth spending all the money we want to conserve it? And that's the first thing. The second thing is, how will it be used tomorrow? Because even to date, conservation means a lot of money because of the different type of techniques you use and the different type of materials you use and the amount of work that goes into it. So, I mean, leaving sustainability on one side, even if we took a monument and I start putting the money into it, it should be important to see that how important it is to the future, because conservation really is a practice of history, where what you're doing is you are taking the past and you're taking the present, the future, and our intervention is today. So the intervention is to make that thing relevant for today and for the future. Only then that continuity of time goes through all of that. So we take an old monument, see it is relevant today, but design it for the future. You see, so all the three things are important. It's important, its value in the past, its relevance in the present, and its use in the future. So the third thing that becomes important is to see who will take care of it tomorrow. So today you may be able to take care of a monument and put money, and you spend a lot of money on it, but who will spend money to maintain it tomorrow? How will it sustain itself? Because if you put in an x amount of money today and there's nobody to take care of it tomorrow, then it's better that we don't put the money today. It becomes unsustainable as a conservation project. I'm not talking of reuse of the building as a structure. That is another thing, absolutely, that you can take a warehouse and convert it into a mall or something. But when we talk of a conservation, we are looking at it from a cultural point of view, from a heritage point of view, but not necessarily just as a building use. So that is the difference.
All right, I get it. Thank you so much for explaining it so well, because I just feel like that, yeah, we need to be focused on the areas we are advocating for. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about the place where you live and your attachment to that place.
See, by now I've lived in too many places and I've evolved, and I don't know which of the place I like most. So that's a very difficult question now. You are born in one place, then you move to work in one place, then you study in a third place, and you go. But I think I've evolved over a period of time, and all of them have their some of their strengths and some of their things that give you the identity of who you are. I don't know whether I can now, at such a later stage, give you a good answer on that one.
Where do you live right now?
Kolkata.
Kolkata. Okay, but I remember that you have some association with Lucknow as well, because
Yeah,
you're
my
dealing
family
of.
is from Lucknow, and I was there for like almost, I think, 40 years of my life. But again, it was an association. I stayed in Lucknow for 25 years, and I taught there and I studied there. Taught architecture there. And now, but it's been a long time since I moved here. And then I stayed in the US also, and I studied in UK also. So, I mean, now, if you ask me, images are very blurred in that sense of having roots, because I found the biggest problem was roots. Our biggest problem today is roots. The more we get tied down to a place, the more our thoughts become, we become, more regional. And I think the time today is to be more global and not to be very regional. So you respect all these places, but you don't want to tie yourself in one place. This is my understanding, not earlier. Earlier, I didn't have this,
All
but
right,
more
that's
and
a
more.
nice perspective, and yes, that counts with experience, definitely. Yeah, because you have traveled so much, you have outgrown those limited beliefs, maybe. or
Yeah.
it was a demand for you to just break free from some break free from attachments. Yeah,
No,
right.
and the it's also the pandemic. You see, what happened as well was that something used to happen in the US, and we are concerned, oh God, we are going to get that thing here, and then people were not happy when somebody came from a country which has COVID, and then they would stop the borders. No, no, we don't want people from this country. We don't want people from that country. I mean, these 2 years have been really have changed my mindset, because if associations and places bring up so much dislike and hatred for each other, or so much of difference, then I don't want to have it.
All right.
I don't want to belong to a place then. No.
I understand it now. Yeah, okay. The purpose for this question basically was like when people have a sense of belonging or connection to a place, certain place, an attachment with, they tend to contribute to it. But since I have talked to you and I have come to know your personality, you are just a loving being. You will spread love wherever you go. You will create that belonging connection yourself. So yeah, it's not dependent on any place or any
Uh,
environment. It's just you being you. So
No,
I get
because I
you.
have a lot of people who like Lucknow. I can say I love, but when I see when was brought up in Lucknow, there was no fanaticism there. But now when I see fanaticism there, it kind of bothers me. And then I just cannot still become a person from Lucknow and start fighting with them, because then they say, "Oh, you are an outsider." Then sometimes you are an insider, sometimes we are an outsider. So I think the time of us being from a place is gone. We are not from any place. Neither are you, nor am I. Because see, look at the way we are in a common space and time. So no, we are not from any place really anymore. This is my
That's deep.
strong
Yeah,
connection.
that's deep, and that's actually truth. Okay.
Mm.
We'll get into it sometime again. Okay, tell me about the Scottish Cemetery project that you guys did. I would love to know about it and I would love to share with the audience.
Mm. The Scottish Cemetery project is a strange project. It started about 10 years back, and this is a cemetery, so it's just a graveyard of Scots who came as a part of the British Empire and were buried there. We used to wonder, why would they want to restore a graveyard, you know. Nothing fancy about that. And being a Hindu, I had never been inside one. So for you as a Muslim, it may be easy, but for me, a Hindu, it was like going inside a graveyard. But you would have to take a bath every time you went in and came out. So I mean, it was a major issue. And then, but over a period of time, as we started working on it, it came out. It's in the heart of the city of Calcutta, and it is surrounded by slums. And these are migrants from Muslim migrants from Bihar. So you see, this is this Christian cemetery surrounded by a whole dense slum area of Bihari migrant Muslims, and the whole team of workers are Hindus. So you see, it became like a major understanding of cross-cultural understanding. So first, we all had to kind of we still need to negotiate languages, because one speaks English, one speaks Hindi, and the locals speak Bengali. So language is one issue. Then the second was that since they were slum dwellers, they were using this space as a kind of a illegal den for themselves. So you would have prostitution and theft and arson and anything you want. So the moment we started working over there, the first thing they did was they tried to drive us away, because they didn't want the space to be used. So we tried everything. We kept security guards and we kept other issues. Nothing worked. So then we decided to start a community program. So it was this time, 10 years back, when I understood that policy decisions cannot happen top down. They have to start from bottom up, because these are migrants, but they are there because of the work that they do in the area. They all run garages, and they're all Muslims. And all the children now who used to come, and the women who used to come to our cemetery in the community program, were Muslim girls and Muslim boys and Muslim this thing. So we started running programs for them, and we started getting to know the neighborhood, and we started talking to the other areas, and slowly the area kind of changed. And because we cleaned it, and we interacted positively with them, so the houses around now started changing. They started painting their houses up, the rents went up, the tenants changed, and the relationship. So in 10 years time, the place is much more beautifully handled. And these people used to stay in houses which are like 10 feet by 10 feet, but they have their own houses in the villages, which are huge places and thing. But here they're living like 5 6 people in one small room, so they have no open space. So we decided that our cemetery would be their park. So we designed it for them to come and play, and the women to come and spend. Because as you were talking about public spaces, there is no public space for women, safe public space for women. So since this is private property, we thought that the women will be safe here, the girls are safe here. So the girls and the women do enjoy the time they spent here, because it's a urban space, yet it's a safe space, which means a lot in India, and as you were saying, in Pakistan also. So not only are we dealing with their problem of open spaces, we are also trying to give them, because the boys would play on the street and they would play football on the street, but all the girls and the mothers are inside those small rooms. And because of staying in those small rooms, they have problems like UTI, because there are no toilets, and they have no there is a lot of sexual harassment, and and because of them staying or using the toilets in the open, and getting sexual assaulted when they go out, and all that. So I mean, we couldn't solve all those problems because those were beyond our agenda, but we were able to at least work with them and give them some sort of a clean green open space, we like to call it. So urban space then became, instead of treating it like a cemetery, we started making it as a backyard for the our neighborhood community, and for people to come in. And then slowly and slowly we converted when this pandemic happened, we saw that the whole cemetery became grew up again and became a jungle. So now what we did was that we have now kept it as a biodiversity park, being trained for climate mitigation. So we keep it down. So now we try to maintain the balance between ecology, where we have birds and butterflies and other plants, and we get the people in the neighborhood who use this space, and yet it is an architectural conservation restoration project. So I just wanted to answer your earlier question, that if we were to balance, how do we balance people, ecology, and architecture? And then this is how I would like to treat that, where each person is taken care of individually within that. So you allow people to use it as an open space, and you allow the nature to thrive in it, when as a with little maintenance, and you also restore the monuments and make it a heritage for the tourists and the people who come over there. And for its sustainability, we will want that it be reopened as a burial ground, so that people can continue to use that as a burial space, and that would make it relevant. Just to answer my earlier question again, you had asked was about conservation and what we would do. So we do take the heritage value of it being a Scottish cemetery, which is a 19th century thing, but we made it relevant today by tying it up to the needs of the neighborhood and to the climate change, and we make it useful in the future, not only as a green lung within the city, but also as a burial ground, so that it can earn its money and continue to be used for what it was. So, I mean, from a derelict place, now it is useful to the neighborhood, to the city, and to the world, if we look at climate change, mitigation of climate change. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, this is great that you wouldn't have initially just taken into account, or you haven't just imagined how great it would have been?
No, no,
Because
no
yeah, you
chance.
learned with the process that this is need and this can be done,
Uh,
this, and
yeah,
now this
yeah,
it is in a good space.
yeah,
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 that's great. That's so much
yeah.
motivating and inspiring.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about your liking towards street vendors, as you see them as a vibrant element in the urban cities. Share your stories.
Uh, I think this project again came to me as a in the pandemic when I was doing nothing, and we thought I thought let's look out and study my neighborhood. And I went and I thought, okay, public spaces, I should study the public spaces, and I started studying the street vendors. And you will not believe I'm really quite old. And I never looked at them as human beings. In India, you don't look at them as human beings. He's either a vegetable seller or a fruit seller or a shopkeeper or something, but or a beggar. But you don't look at them and you don't know their name or where they're coming from or how many children he has. I mean, barring our close maids and all in the family, we don't really, especially as women, I wouldn't go and talk to men on the street as to if he's selling fish, that where are you from, you know it would not be. But this project gave me a very nice exposure to that, to really study these people, and I realized they were people. They were not gray forms. And more and more I realized as the pandemic went on that if when there were no street vendors who were giving me my newspaper, my milk, my vegetables, my meat, my fish, and my cook didn't come down, and my cleaner didn't come down, and my driver didn't come down, and I realized that the people on the street and the people in the slums are these people, and my house stopped working. And it was then I realized that it is not they, it is us who need them, because they already have houses in their villages. But the city runs because of these people. When they were the all the cleaners had gone, the streets were dirty, and the people couldn't, we had to wash our own utensils, and we had to clean our own houses, which was unthinkable for our part of the land. And at first time I realized this, that it is not as if they, but they complete us the way a man would complete a woman. I mean, it is this section of society, the served and the servers, who make a complete whole in our part of the world, unlike the West. I mean, this is not something that you can divide into two. If you take a city in our part of the world, it is made up of that. But the designers, architects, planners only design for the 40% of the served, but we don't design for the 60% of the people who are not, who are the servers, which is why they have to stay in slums, which is why they have to do all the other things they do. I mean, and that was a very great learning for me, that people, I always thought that only the elite and the privileged class needed an architect and a planner, but I was so wrong. And that was my learning, that we really don't design for the whole city. We only design for 40% of the city, which is why the 60% of the city that we call slums, or something as a backyard of the city, is like that, because we never really designed for them. We never designed for people who serve us, thinking that they don't need we don't need them.
Yeah, they are equally the part of community. They are serving the purpose of actually being the eyes on the street, the safety. The reason why our
Everything.
streets are safe are because of their presence. Yeah,
Yes.
the elders
And
in the street. Right. So
yes.
the Architecture Fringe Festival actually raised that point, and I really appreciate it because I have heard this before. You have presented
Mm,
there. So it was amazing. It was amazing lesson. Okay, and the video you
And,
wanted to share, we will show the
yes,
audience right now. Okay,
okay.
great.
And that thing also brings across the complexity of the Indian aesthetics. That we don't want to clean it all up and make it everything look like Dubai, or everything looks like Singapore. Everything has to look like Paris, because the complexity of a system in India is really multi-layered, and it is what it is because of the way it functions. And we need to change this idea of aesthetic, of clean aesthetics, so to say.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Okay, what is shadow economy? Educate us more on that.
See, my biggest problem has been nowadays is because I have, since the day I was born, I've been educated in a Western system right from my school days. And so it gave me a very my vocabulary is very now difficult. It's very difficult to speak some things, like, for example, use of the word economy. Actually, it means black market, something which is not used, which is not official, which is something which is not the taxes don't go to the government. But you're from this part of the country, and I am also from this. So here, a shadow economy is an economy which is working at a level where we don't go to a shop. You can just go to a person who grows some vegetables at home and brings, and he may just have like a very small 10 cabbages, and he will sell those 10 cabbages and go home. So I mean, he's not paying taxes, and he's really not doing anything. Then there are other activities, like people coming at home and washing our clothes or doing this thing. I mean, they are not really paying any taxes either. But again, I that was not a system the way it worked. So this is a traditional system in which, if suppose they're living in my house, and we give them a house to live in, and they live there, and we educate their children, but they work in our house and we pay them money, and there are no taxation in that sort of a thing. So I mean, I have now understood that if we were to define our culture, it would need a different set of vocabulary, like everything else, is to understand so when I say shadow, it would mean from a Western point of view. But in an Indian point of view, if I have to talk, it's about these vendors who bring their wares from the villages or their homes, which are homegrown, what you now call the organic market. And they would use just local leaves or something to give you the stuff, and you buy it and you come home, and there is no other question asked about that type of a thing. So that is what it is, that our economy really, that's why these people are never really accounted for, because probably they don't have bank accounts, and they don't have social security numbers, they don't have identification, which is why they are also not accounted for by in the planning, and they are called illegal, or they are called unofficial. But they are the people who run our cities.
So this is not wrong that they are not paying taxes and stuff like that, but it is wrong that we have no system for their presence or their importance in the city, right? This is what you're
No,
saying.
no, it is not they. It is us.
It is us,
It is
like
our
system.
system. It is our system, and we have chosen to use a Western model to work within our system, right? Like I say, I don't have a vocabulary. I think I am at fault myself, that this was a complete system. I cannot imagine my house without my whole household. My household, like you just explained about your Tayaji and your grandfather and this thing. So, I mean, everybody's households are different, and you must be having people staying there as a driver or as a cook or extended some mashi species, somebody, so the household system is, the whole system is separate. So the work culture is different, the economy is different. So we need to actually build more structures which are more uh, which are more inclusive to our systems, rather than take them as a um,
Prototype for
us
all.
and they, us and they, us and they. They're not us and they. We make one. That is our culture.
Yeah.
They are one.
Oh, yes. This is something I can. This is the food for thought for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the problems you faced so far as a conservation architect? Mention if you like to discuss anything and what steps you took as a solution.
I think my biggest problem and something that I struggle with every day of my life is my Western education. Because whereas it has given me the scientific methodology to think and process information, but the information that goes in, I feel, and or the problems that I face, that the my knowledge of those doesn't work here. So very simply, like the whole idea of conservation, when I was in Lucknow, and I I I think I measured draw 200 buildings in Lucknow, or maybe more than that. I was your age. I was very young. I used to go house to house and I used to measure these houses and I used to talk to those people, Hindus and Muslims. Huh? I'm not saying that they were all Hindus, because what I'm going to say may sound as if it's Hindu. And they used to ask me, बिटिया तुम ये घर क्यों नाप रही हो? So I used to say it's very important. It was in chalk and it is 17th century, very important. So they used to say, this body will not last and you're concerned about this building. So this is these all these old people who used to stay in that house and they would keep telling me, बिटिया हम ही नहीं रहेंगे तो बिल्डिंग का क्या होगा? इस बिल्डिंग के बारे में क्यों सोचती हो? हमारे बारे में सोचो, अगर सोचना ही है तो हमारे बारे में सोचो. You know, and again and again everybody would tell me this again and again. I mean, there's no point talking of a building when we ourselves will go away, you see. And then if you see the Indian philosophy, it talks about this thing of the body being material, and the spirit being more important. So it was the spirit, the spiritual things were more important than the material. So spiritual aspects are always given more importance than the material aspect of anything in life, because it will go from dust to dust, ash to ash, finish. There's nothing left. So if when our body itself is not important, how can the building be important? So really, people do not have the same sense of understanding of conservation as you would do in a Western country, which is why we never had a policy of like it. So it was always repair, मरम्मत करा दो, मरम्मत करा लो, जब तक चलता है, खराब हो जाए दूसरा बदल दो. You see, so this concept of conservation is pretty new actually. It's just about 100 years or 200 years old. So I mean, just getting it into the Indian psyche is going to take time. This, and whether how much we want to do it, and as you said about repair and maintenance, that those are issues, or relevance or sustainability, those are issues which are more important than restoration. So sustainability is a better card to play than restoration, you know.
Yeah.
So um,
Yeah,
yeah.
listening, since all of my questions were revolving around conservation, because I really wanted to understand it from a
Yeah.
professional point of view. And what I've come to terms with is like to talk about conservation or to understand it in its roots. It is like even if people are saying that pay attention to us, not this building structure, but if people just internalize the idea that this building is part of their health, it is going to affect them in the long term. Like it is going to, the materials used in the buildings, it is going to affect them. The way this building is going to last, the maintenance and everything is going to put stress on them. Like if the building is sustainable, if a building is built with local materials, there will be less sustainability pressure, less maintenance pressure, less stress, things like that. It will take up stress from them. It's going to be healthy for them, for their
Yeah,
body as well.
no, it's not that. The point is because then the whole paradigm of conservation would change. Just now we were looking at from a building's point of view, but then we would look at from a human being's point of view. It's very different. You see, then I would look at the architecture, I would look at authenticity, issues of, restoration, issues of international systems, or what should be done, what should not be done. But if I use it for like a from the person's point of view, then maybe that person has a huge palace, but he does not have even a single penny that he earns from it. So how is he expected to actually take care of it? So that then the thing would be that how do you fund that person, or how does he fund it? And suppose you had a huge house and you had no money to eat, what would your priorities be?
No, I mean that um, like it's what we can learn from conservation architects, like the architects that are focusing on building new things. What we can learn from conservation architect is that we make buildings that are going to be conserved, and that needs to be prepared, or that need to be created with the materials that are going to be easily maintained or conserved. That thing just came to my mind from
No,
that
no.
life.
What you are saying is very correct. That every time we reuse a building, reuse a new or old building, obviously we don't mine as much, we don't make as much cement, we don't make as many bricks, and it is healthier. Building less is always healthier. But that's what, again, as I said, so that is an issue of sustainability, but it is not necessarily an issue of restoration. Restoration is a thing which is which is aesthetic. In many ways it's aesthetic, it's not always functional. So I mean, if you take a tomb, a huge Humayun's tomb or something, you cannot just make just break half of the minar and make it in some other concrete, because it would look very ugly. So I mean, aesthetics is a very, very important part of restoration versus sustainability and other things. So I mean, that is whatever value we are trying to hold. I mean, if your nose is broken, so you can stay with a broken nose. But if you want a new nose, you would want it as close to your face as possible for it to look,
More natural.
pretty again, pretty again. So that is the issue. But the other more relevant issues in conservation itself would be to use local systems, local materials, inexpensive materials, where
That's what I
you
mean.
can make the system cheaper, so you don't have to make it elitist and more expensive. But so that was what has been my effort, is to not use the I use the Western methodology and the scientific knowledge, but I have put in for local materials and local technologies and local systems. And that is what I train for also, is to look out for the local, look out for what is around you, look out for the people around you, so that we can use the same people. Once more and more people are trained, then more and more building are restored.
Yes, I
So
get it.
don't make it something only conservation architects can do. Anybody should be able to do that.
All right, I get it. Okay, so it was a good one. Let's move on to the question that I asked everybody. Okay, what drives you and what keeps you focused on the work for the greater benefit?
Mm, See, we are given this one life, and I always want to make it meaningful. So I keep stopping and saying, what is meaningful to me? What is meaningful to me? And when, I mean, it has changed over a period of time. When I was younger, it was more meaningful to me to fulfill my own desires of being rich or being famous, or writing books or whatever. But more and more now, when I see people like Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, more and more it has become more meaningful for me to give back, or to be able to serve somebody, or to make somebody happy. Because I come from a family of doctors, and they always had a nice noble profession because they could help people. But my profession, and especially as a conservation architect, I I deal with only the most elitist and most materialistic section of society. So But so more and more I think, how can I find avenues where I can make my own profession in any way useful, and I found urban conservation to be one of them, where I can deal with people and see that I can make somebody's life a little better, and that is how I got into these outreach programs. Yeah.
That's very kind of you. Oh, okay,
No,
and
no, it's not kind. It gives meaning to me.
yeah,
I'm not being kind. It makes me meaning. I mean, then I'm happy when I get up in the morning that, oh, I can do something good. You know, you can actually offer something and there may be nobody to take it. So we should always remember that, you know, if there's somebody to take what I'm giving, I'm blessed. You take out zakat and there's nobody to take it, what would you
you are
do?
asking. Sorry, you are asking the question.
I'm asking the question. You took out the zakat. You take out zakat.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh. And if there's nobody to take it,
We find people. There is always we can easily find people over here for that.
you can easily,
Yeah,
but suppose you didn't.
yeah. Uh, but I would have to think about it then.
Yeah, you
Because
because
we
we
find,
always taken for granted. We take it for granted.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is how the system is created. The card is there for a purpose because it's always going to be needed. Always going to be
But
there.
there can be different types of zakat, you know, it doesn't have to be only money. It could be, as you were talking before the interview, is how lonely people are, how people
Yeah.
like men. So it's not necessarily always material. You see, it could be in many other ways. And
There, there are two types of things in our religion. It's sadka
mm,
and it's zakat. Zakat is in terms
mm,
of money and sadka is
money.
on different types. And the cheapest is the smile. Like a
Huh,
smiley person is a
that's
sadka for everyone because
yes.
it can
So
bring
that
joy to
yeah.
everyone.
So
Right.
then you'll have to shift to the other one.
Okay. So what is your proudest moment of work life that made you like really proud of your work and your life?
I think it would have to do to bringing smile on people's faces most of the time, and children especially, and girls in particular. So we do this program in the community program in the Scottish Cemetery, and you know Loreto Convent. It's a school for the rich girls, and they have an annual fete. So what they did was, it was for the NGOs, where the girls from the community would serve and the girls from the school would buy stuff. So we took our own girls over there, so they got their cards and bags, and we've taught our girls to do mehndi. So they were doing mehndi. So the girls would come and they would apply mehndi on their hands. And that for me, and these are all Muslim girls, so they were all with their burqas and
Yeah.
everything. And so after that, then they would put, and then, I mean, you could not make out any difference that this girl is from a convent and this girl is from our community. And they would sit and they put mehndi. After that, at the end of the program, there was this dance. There is this jukebox where everybody would put money, and then the girls would dance on the Bollywood songs. And then I could see that my girls were all like, they were so interested. Ki, ma'am, we can also go and dance. Ma'am, hum bhi dance karenge, ma'am. And they were so scared of their mothers and other seniors ki, क्या यहाँ पे आके लड़कियां डांस करेंगी. So then I took them and we put money in the jukebox and then they danced. I think that was the happiest moment of to see all these girls in there, dancing with the. I mean, and the girls just merged. So it was not whether this was from a high family or this was from underprivileged. They were all girls dancing to the same love songs, and I think that was the happiest
They
day of my
found
life.
their belonging and the connection just
I
merely
mean, it
because of
was
the
there.
possibility
It
of
was always there.
interaction. Yeah,
It
they
was
were
always there.
they felt safe to be expressive around them.
Yeah, yeah,
That makes
yeah, yeah. It was
it
beautiful.
is
Yeah,
a proud moment if you are able to create such
yeah. It was
opportunity. Okay, so what was your hardest moment of work life like, and
again
what
the
did you learn from it?
hardest moment was the pandemic. I think when I saw so many people, and especially the when people I knew die, or people the poor people being, just these migrants being driven off. People in my own cemetery, I mean, there were four children. Their parents got locked down in Bihar, and there was four locked down in the house, small children, and there was no way of getting them food. We of course sent them food and everything, and this by that, so I mean, they were in a very pitiable situation. And then the cemetery grew up, and it became really, like I told you, a jungle. And when we started cutting it, below every jungle place, there were 5 or 6 stones. And we saw small boys of 8 or 10 years who used to sleep in that with the animals. And I think that was the most depressing thing. They were drug addicts, or they were just poor, or they were just finding a place to sleep. So the dogs would be sleeping there, and we have snakes and all also over there. And these, they had bricks, and they had kept these bricks, which was their pillows, and they were lying on those below the jungles. And there were 5 or 6 patches, and these children, I mean, they look so. They were all junkies. So I mean, that is one thing, and junkies is a completely different thing. um, we can't help them. There's a whole different issue. And it was that time when I realized that there's so many things I cannot do. I mean, so you, all you can do is you can suffer with them, and that's the only thing you can do. But we have our limits of. So for me at that time, service became a non-entity. It's we cannot help everybody. That, I mean, even if I wanted, I could not have helped them. Even if I wanted, I could not have helped them. These were situations which were only God can take care of. And no. So, I mean, at that time I decided that social work is not for me, because it's something that it's a much more complex issue. So, whatever we can do in our own way, in our own small way, we can do. But some problems you cannot solve. And when humans have to live like animals, it it is something I could not comprehend. No.
I can understand that. I can feel it, and I do believe that pandemic was here for a reason, and it was to bring out the
Absolutely.
empathy in people, that you
Absolutely.
are running wildly after things that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
money didn't save people; they
No.
were die.
Nothing saved.
I've
Nothing saved.
seen I've seen rich people die because just of a
Yes.
virus.
Yes.
Nothing could
Yes.
save them, but during those times, if they had family with them, it was a moment of relief, maybe. Uh, the, during the pandemic, the only thing that brought me relief was seeing people caring for each other.
Mm.
Because there was no desire for things; it was
Mm.
desire for connection, for peace,
Yeah.
for health, for life. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
Mm,
lesson
this-
from the Lord,
Yeah.
from Almighty Allah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
My life has changed after the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, I would want it to change. I don't want to continue with my earlier life. As you said, rat race kind of a life. But I also know that I cannot do so much. I cannot do. So I mean, I only hope that I'm given the opportunity where I could, within my means, within my education, within my this thing, serve people in any way. So I'm willing to help, but I don't think I'm that much of a help. Yeah.
But if you save one life, you have saved the nation. You have saved the whole
I don't think I
planet.
can save one life also as well. I don't think I
Inspire
can save
people.
even one life.
You
No,
can
I
inspire
can't.
people to
Not
at
in.
least care for themselves. This is something that maybe there
No, it has taught me humility. It has taught me humility.
definitely.
Okay, I can't do it. I mean, a lot of things are not in our hands. And even if I may have a lot of money, I may have a lot of means, I may be very educated, yet I am incapable of doing a lot of things. And this is what I learned: humility. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Since the work you are doing, it's very much like pacemaking. So,
Huh.
what quote or what life mantra, work mantra you have that keeps you going, like you focus on and it gives you just an energy or anything. Like placemaking is
Oh,
about creative
poetry is
energy.
my thing. Poetry is my thing. I read poetry and I write poetry, and I think poets always say it right. And Robert Frost, miles to go before I sleep.
Oh, nice, yes.
Miles to go before I sleep. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Yeah,
That's nice. That yeah. And if we have it in a poetic manner, if we say something to ourselves, a positive affirmation in a poetic manner, that's fun too.
yeah,
You just said it, and I just loved it. Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing.
Miles to go before I sleep. Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Okay, so do you have any opinion for Pakistan or anything about place picking Pakistan? Pakistan in general, like opinion or any advice or anything that you have for it.
I think what you are doing is very good, Asba, because I think I always believe that. I mean, till you showed it to me that it was true. Is that talking, dialogue, and understanding is really what is important. Many a times, because we don't talk to each other, we don't realize that the other person is just like me, and they are all human. At a base level, everybody is human, but there is, I mean, whatever the differences are really is of the our conditioning, but deep down we all have the same things, the same need for love, the same need to love, the same this thing to achieve something in life, do good in life, be somebody, have somebody. And I think once everybody understands that, then people are not so scared of each other. I mean, people are more open to each other. So I think this dialogue is a very good thing that you've started, and it should be done in person also. So people, as if more people met more people and talked to more people, I think the world will be a much better place. I mean, Pakistan to me has always been an extension of India, and I wish I could go to Pakistan and eat the biryani and other stuff. So for me, no, I have never had any difference from, because especially from being from Lucknow, Pakistan is always a part of Lucknow all the time. So most of our mehndi patterns come from there. Our dresses and shalwars and materials would come from Pakistan. A lot of our embroidery, like zardozi and all, came from. We have common things. So at least the mehendi is something very common, and the chudis that you we have are very common. So there are so many things which were just common that it never occurred that it was somewhere else. So it was an extension of ourselves.
That's why it's always so soulful to talk to you. It feels safe to talk to you whenever we have been able to also collaborate and talk to each other about anything, about any topic, especially the culture aspect, because it feels like we shared, so there's no difference. And yeah, I agree
Oh,
to this. And thank you so much uh, for joining me today, for all this talk and for the previous sessions as well, because uh, it means a lot, because I can just offer you the um, I can just make a call towards you, but if you don't respond to it, then there's not going to be any dialogue. You know that
no,
thing.
no. Anything, anytime you want. I mean, I think we should take, not just for Pakistan. I think the world is in a strange place where everybody, is becoming so alienated from each other. Families are breaking down. People are alone. People are into their internets and they don't come out. And everybody is lonely. Everybody is sad. I mean, not everybody, but so many people are lonely. So many people are sad. Their religion is not giving them what it should. So I mean, there is no backup plan for nowadays. The youth, there is no backup plan. What? Where do I do? What do I do? Where do I go? No elders, no temple or mosque or wherever you get counsel from. So I mean, I think such programs should be. Uh, I think from our part of the world, I think what we can offer is love. I mean, look at Rumi. Look at Rumi. I mean, and look at the love that he has spread all over. And I think We have a lot of love to give. We may not have a lot of stuff to give, but we have a lot of food and a lot of love to give, which I think we can give to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so any message for the global leaders out there?
Well, that's what it is. That we should start thinking beyond war and beyond power systems, and look at bridging the gap, and bridge the gap with love. And I think again I go back to Rumi, and Rumi said something about the only way to bridge a gap is through love. The only way you can. Do you read Urdu, Parsi? Do you read this person? I had written it. Yes, I have. Love is the bridge. If I love myself, I love you. If I love you, I love myself.
Yeah, definitely.
You see, only when we see that basic humanity within each other, I don't think I would hurt you if I knew you were a part of me, would I?
Yes, love is the language that anybody can understand.
Yes, anybody,
Anybody
anybody.
can feel it, even if they don't
Feel it,
understand. Yeah,
feel. Yeah. So
definitely.
I'm a great proponent of love and universal love, like Rumi. Sufism, yeah.
I love Rumi too. I've read, uh, I've read material about him, yeah, but still can't reach that myself completely.
No, but you can actually read him in his mother tongue. I can't do that, but you could read in Persian, I think. He wrote in Persian, no?
No, I read in English. We
We're
don't, we haven't studied Persian over here. Yeah. Different.
missing something then.
It's different from you.
Zakr पढ़ना है तो उसी की लैंग्वेज में पढ़े ना.
Yeah, maybe sometime, maybe someday. Finding love in
That
myself through my own lens
is,
right now.
yeah. That is true.
Okay, thank you so much, Neeta ma'am,
Nice
for your
time.
time today. It was amazing talk. I had so much fun today. We have
Yeah,
had so
same
much
here, same here. We
time.
should anyways talk with or without your program.
Yeah,
Okay, just
definitely,
write to me whenever we want and we can chat. See?
definitely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
Take
getting me
care.
here.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.